Hello and welcome to My Xbox and Me, episode 295, I believe.
Oh.
I am one of your hosts. No, 5. I think you're wrong.
It's 5.
It says 4,
you
but
need
it's...
to update the running order then.
Whoa.
What do you want from me?
Whoa. You
Roll the intro
cannot
again. Let's
come
start
out
over.
the gates with giving me that type of energy around here. Kresh,
I
who's this
don't
guy
know.
think he
I
is?
like it. I like it.
You're not on my side?
I
Amazing.
think, I think this is what you needed, Fix. This is an intervention. You know, yeah. The way
Nice.
you've been moving in this pod, we haven't been feeling it lately.
Wow! My name's MC Fixer, and to my top left is the one and only Too Fresh. Kresh, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well.
No one cares how you are. And the other one is Matt P. Video. Hello, Matt.
The energy is.
Don't care how you are
intense
either, let's
today,
be
isn't it?
honest.
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
You know what?
If
Last
anybody's
week,
brand new to this podcast right now, this is not the episode to jump in on.
It's fine. We got our new...
last
Welcome, everybody who came from Unlocked last week. Just before all the banter, let's get it all out of the way. Before that, thank you for everyone that has come over from Unlocked. We do appreciate you. Last week was our most listened episode to date. Period. Done. Beat our
Thank you.
episode with Tim Geddes. So there you go. Kresh, go on. Say what you was going to say.
last week you hated the fact that I paused, so this week no pause.
That's
I
not
went straight
true.
into it, and you gave me some ish.
That's not even
This
true.
is so much abuse.
That's not true.
How's
You're
that
a
not
liar.
true? How's
Because you
that
weren't
not
even
true?
here last week.
Oh, you're right. It was before
He's
last
got you.
week.
He's
That's
got you.
True.
So you want to keep spreading fake news around here?
Oh,
That's on
man.
you.
Guys.
That's
This is
on
my
you.
last day on the podcast. Thanks for having me. It was a good run.
We had a good run. If you don't know what My Xbox and Me is, it's our weekly Xbox podcast with a bit of banter sprinkled in, clearly. Here on youtube.com/My Xbox and Me, and of course, all podcast services. I forget to say it every week, so maybe I should start saying it. Usually we come out on a Friday. That is our go-to day. So if you don't see it there on a Friday, sometimes I get up a little bit later, but every Friday is when we try to get the show up. If you want to get the show early, I've been having a few people message me like, hey, how do I actually get the show early on Patreon, stuff like that. I will openly admit there's been a lot going on in my life. I've not been able to get them up as early as I would have liked. But if you want to support the show financially, patreon.com/mcfixer. I am currently working on a custom RSS, that's the one, thank you. RSS feed, because people have been asking about that, so I'm working on it. I don't really understand how it all works, I'll be honest with you. So just bear with me. But yeah, guys, how are you, Kresh? Are you okay?
Oh, I'm supposed to answer now.
Nah, you're allowed to
wow.
answer.
I'm doing okay. You know, a little heartbroken, but
Heartbroken about what?
about what you just did to me.
I didn't do...
I feel like I've been slapped in the face.
I don't like it when mummy and daddy fight.
Yeah, tell me. You started it, newborn.
It's true. It's true. Actually.
That's true.
The divorce is all my fault. This is it.
You know what? I take it back, Fix. None of it's your fault. It's all Matt's fault. You were
Fair.
right in the beginning.
That's fair. That's
always
fair.
thought
I'm
I
excited.
was.
We got some really exciting news to talk about this week. I'm keen.
I mean, yeah, we have. It's weird. It's a weird one. It's a weird week of like lots of big stuff and then lots of little stuff and just lots of stuff going on. But let's not forget our Patreon producers this week, the one and only Erengard, FNH Paul, and the big man, Low Key Mike. Topic of the show this week, lads. For everyone. Sorry about time codes last week, everyone, as well. Me and Matt were just too busy podcasting. We forgot. So that's why Kresh is here. That's why we can't actually fire Kresh until we find a producer that will do time codes for everybody. So, yeah. Topic of the show this week is Microsoft and Bethesda will reportedly be holding a joint conference next month. Before we get into the actual rigmarole for where all this come from, I thought I'd pose the question to both of you, which is this a good idea? Number one, like, is this a smart idea from Xbox to not have one of its own shows? Or same thing that goes for Bethesda. Bethesda obviously have a rabid fan base. You see that with their Bethesda conferences. That's the one thing that I think I was always very impressed with. Wasn't so much what they were showing in terms of games, because Bethesda games don't usually speak to me in the same way other games do. But the one thing I was always impressed with about their shows, which was they were fan-focused, tons of cosplay, it just felt like a really interesting, cool community all coming together to celebrate all things Bethesda. Do you think this is a smart idea, number one, before I start diving into more questions? Kresh?
Yes.
Yeah?
I think Microsoft's been pushing towards this. Bethesda is Xbox, especially like if the rumors are to be believed about Starfield being exclusive and all that stuff. It is very much so. This is the right move to make. It is. Bethesda is Xbox. Bethesda isn't its own thing. We're not going to dangle that hope in front of you guys. Bethesda is Xbox. The hope being for like people who are in the Xbox ecosystem. You want to play these games, be in the Xbox ecosystem. That's how you will play these games.
Matt, what about you?
I'm 50-50 on it. I don't know. But for the sake of playing devil's advocate, I'll go the other way. I think it's a bad idea. I think E3 is about capturing headlines and the mainstream finding out about your stuff. And I think spacing out over a couple of days, 2 different conferences that hit all those Xbox SEO terms and get people excited, and Starfield confirmed for Xbox exclusivity, all that sort of stuff, I think works better if you can space it out as much as you can, right? Imagine if you could sandwich whatever Sony end up doing with an Xbox conference and a Bethesda conference after, or vice versa. I think, look, I can see both sides of it, right? I think everything that Kresh said is absolutely right. But like I say, to play devil's advocate, I would have gone the other way to try and capture as much of the conversation as possible over that E3 space.
Well, if you're wondering where we got this information from, this one was written over on nme.com by, pronouncing that name is going to be hard. Is it Pure? P-U-A-H? Pyle? I'm butchering that. I apologize.
Yeah.
But this will come out from a interview with a French outlet from Matt Booty, which is head of Xbox Game Studios, which he's quoted saying, "This summer, to introduce players to the company upcoming projects, per IGN tech journalist Chloe Woter, who wrote the article later and noted that Twitter." This is a whole thing. Sorry, it's a little bit broken up in French as well. The long and short of it really is, Matt Booty has confirmed that they were going to have a joint conference. A bunch of other stuff has come out now since. Obviously, Jason Schreier has confirmed some things. Jeff Grubb has confirmed some things, which we're going to talk about later on in the show. But this isn't just like a news article that's come out of nowhere. No, this is actually from somebody higher up in Xbox that knows what they're talking about. My point of view really is more a case of, I think it's probably the right idea overall, because I agree with Kresh. Let's not confuse people. I think that's something that Xbox has always done a poor job of, is having mixed messaging and mixed marketing and really not quite understanding who they are at certain times throughout the Xbox in general's life cycle, where right now I feel like they know who they are. They are Xbox. They have the most powerful machine out there currently in the market. They also know that they've just spent 7.5 billion on a company, and it's a case of showing people like me and us who listen to this show that they actually care about the ecosystem, right? And I think if they split it off, I think it can leave the impression of, we just want to recoup our money back as fast as possible, and that's why you're going to see Deathloop and blah 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 blah. But no, I think this allows for Xbox, even if we don't know the exact time for the show and stuff like that, even if it's like an hour-long Xbox show with a half an hour end of Bethesda, which I don't think it will be. I think it will be solidly mixed in. I don't think it will be separate even like that. But I think it's the right thing to do, even if it does mean for a longer show, which I usually like my showcases to be around an hour long personally, because I feel like that's sort of a sweet spot. But you now have how many more studios now you have to talk about, and things that you want to get people excited about. And yeah, I think for me, it's the right thing to do. Will it pay off? Will it matter in the end? I don't know. I generally don't know. Is this going to help Game Pass subscriptions? I don't know.
I think so. Go on, Kresh.
I think it gives them the benefit of like refining the content that they're showing as well, right?
Yep.
It isn't like we need to fill out a 2-hour gap or whatever. It is we will have enough, and then we can also push stuff to the side for a inside Xbox
Summer Games Fest. I think you're gonna.
Games
What I
Fest,
think is gonna
all that type
happen
of stuff.
is you're gonna see Xbox come with the really, really, really big hitters at their E3 showcase, and then the Summer Games Fest. I don't know exactly. I haven't read up on it yet, which we're going to talk about later in the show, right? I know Xbox have announced that they're partnering with it, but with a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
Do we know if that's like a separate day of E3 and like what is it? Do we know yet?
I think they said it's the 14th, so I don't know where everything falls in. I think Summer Games Fest is its own thing, so it's its own conference, if I'm not mistaken. I think we have an article about it coming up later.
Yeah.
It is its own conference. It's a set amount of time. So I do think
so I think we
there's
get
a
the big
possibility
hitters
we'll see
then.
reruns and stuff like that.
I don't know if we'll get reruns, but I think you'll see the big hitters at Xbox's showcase to really go toe-to-toe with Nintendo, let's say, or Ubisoft, who are going to be showing their big third-party games. Xbox come with their big hitters. They can then compete on a... I don't really like the whole war of E3, personally, like who won the showcase. It's like they're all advertisers. That's literally what this is, to advertise games. But I think they'll come with the big ones and then they'll push off maybe some of the smaller projects that they've partnered with people on the idea Xbox front or second party-wise. That will get pushed to Summer Games Fest. Maybe?
I think that.
I think you're probably right. And I think they're probably looking at, you know, there definitely is this mentality of who won E3, right? And so if you can barrel it all into one show, Xbox is just more likely to win E3, right? Than saying, well, Xbox had a good show and Bethesda had a good show, but they are separate things, and so PlayStation won E3, right? You don't want that conversation to happen. And
PlayStation are not even at E3, so they can't win E3.
Well,
just so we're fully aware.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
You can't win something you're not at, Matt. Just so you're aware. Just so you're aware.
We'll see. Hey, mate, if they announce a red PlayStation, I'm sure people will flip.
Good point. So,
Then we got to do anything else. No game is just a red PlayStation.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I think you're right. I always think of these things from like an SEO standpoint and
that's
like capturing the I know and capturing that SEO market for as long as possible, and so spreading out this information over a really busy period is kind of the way to do that. But I can totally see both sides of it, right? I wouldn't have been surprised if this headline was the other way around and it was Xbox confirmed that Bethesda were going to have their own conference and we'd be having the same conversation, you know what I mean? So yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know what SEO is search engine optimized. This is a term used within the industry for like articles and things like that. It's how we get our traction going. So My Xbox in Me would be a SEO term. So if people then search for it, it comes up on Google and things like that. Because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening going, what the hell are they talking about?
Sure, apologies. Too inside baseball. Yeah, I get it.
Let's get into Fixer's Sack this week. This is where you can ask your questions. Email in myxboxandmepodcast@gmail.com or hit us up in my Discord with the questions in the My Xbox and Me tab for questions. First one comes in from Luke Alderslayer and says, question for the podcast. If Halo Infinite comes out this year, /next year, and is overwhelmingly disappointed at launch, do you think Xbox and 343 should support it long term and hope they can turn it around? Or do you think Xbox should finally make the big call and give up with 343 and Halo? Maybe put in the series on hiatus or completely rebooting with a new studio. Maybe a Bethesda studio such as id Software. Kresh, I'm going to go to you first because I think you're probably the biggest Halo fan out of the three of us here. What happens if Halo is underwhelming this year or next?
I think if Halo is underwhelming, I think chances are Microsoft puts it away for a while. I think Halo's in a really unfortunate position where its core fan base is very split on what they want from the game. So no matter what happens with Halo, I don't see it ever like being a blowout success simply because of its own audience. Because there's people in Halo who are like, well, I want that old school Halo feel. I don't want running. I want dual wielding. Why can't I play as Covenant and all these things? And there's people who like the newer games. And they are two distinct styles, right? Going from a Halo 1 to Halo 5 is a very different experience. And so I think it has that sort of difficulty going with it. I don't think I'd want to see Bethesda touch it, not even id Software. I like what id Software does. I just don't think that a Doom feels like Halo. I do think those are two different experiences. And whether you like it or not, 343's games do feel like an evolution of Halo. But I do think the game needs to sort of go away for a while if this isn't a super success, or not a super success, just successful.
This is the question.
So that they can sort of work on ideas.
The question I would love to change it then is like, what does it need to be considered successful to you? Like, for me, I'm like, all it needs to do is have that. If they have a battle royale, I know we always come back to battle royale with Halo, like, and it's free to play and it's actually good. Like, I'm not saying people are done with Call of Duty or Fortnite, but if they can eat away from that mind share and that market share, it could be humongous, like really big. And I kind of think this doesn't live or die on its single player. For me, like, I think people will play it single player and they will either love it or hate it. But if they can make that free-to-play multiplayer work across Xbox and PC, that could be the thing that drives Halo into the next level and gets the people like me or the casual audience. Obviously, we're not going to see Master Chief dancing unless you play it in Fortnite. Like, that's the only way you're going to see that. But to you, what does it need to do to be considered a success? Because I don't think even it getting 10s out of 10s on every outlet would even make it a success.
Yeah, I think for me, it just has to. Halo's always had a problem, at least with the 343 games, where if you look at 4, it's like the multiplayer is horrible. Some people don't like the campaign. The campaign's divided. Some people argue Halo 4 is an overall bad game. I think they need to come out with a mode where it's like the multiplayer is generally well received, and then the single player is generally well received. I don't think it needs to be a case where it blows you out of the water for either of them. I think a BR game, like you mentioned, would be fantastic for the game, but I don't think it even necessarily needs that. It's just what's there can't be looked at as a flawed product by a majority of the people.
Matt, what about you?
There's a lot, right? Like, I disagree. I don't think it can be okay, especially the single player. I think, you know, for better or worse, the hype around this game at this point, the delays, the gameplay that's come out, the kind of new open world aspect to it, have made people think that this is going to be a kind of reboot akin to God of War in whatever year that was that we never get right.
I've got to stop you. You always say that, and I 100% disagree with you. You say that so much, and I think to myself, no, because we weren't expecting that. And even with what we've seen, it's not akin to a God of War reboot, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think the open world aspect of it could do that. It could be enough.
But the open world aspect also kind of goes back to Halo 1, which did have this sort of more open world Metroidvania type of aspect to it, where you're backtracking and you have this world to explore type of feel. It just seems like this would be that on a bigger scale.
I feel like anything that gets rebooted nowadays just always gets compared to God of War, because God of War was so amazing. And I just think it's such a super unfair comparison to like hold it to that sort of level. I think Halo looks great. I think it looks really good. I loved what I saw of it, and it was like, oh, this actually looks interesting for someone who's not interested in Halo. But it doesn't look the way God of War. I never played a God of War, ever. I never played one. I thought those games looked garbo, in my opinion. Just didn't like it. When the new God of War came out, I was like, I have to play this. This looks crazy. I don't think it's like that with Halo. I've played Halo. I've enjoyed Halo. I've just never understood the lore. I've never understood the world. Where this new one feels like, well, I'm going to get to understand the lore and the world, and maybe they'll make me care. And they'll add some new mechanics. The grappling hook looked dope, in my opinion. And again, people are very divided on that. But it's like, I don't know. Just not to go on too much.
No.
I do think
totally agree with everything you're saying.
I do think that like we always with reboots, remakes and stuff, like God of War did it, yes, and they did it really well. But they're not the only person to ever reboot a game.
Yeah.
No, but I think they're an example of the team doing it correctly and to huge success, right? Like you say, they're bringing in that new audience. And Halo is one of those things that every gamer knows of, but I don't think at this point every mainstream gamer has played or understands. Like you say, I think it's been so long since the last installment, and so many new people are in this ecosystem now with the Series X and S and Game Pass.
Yeah.
That they do have to understand that not everybody's going to have played Combat Evolved who's jumping into this Halo, and so they need to capture
which I
people,
think they have,
right?
which I think they will. I do think that I think what you are saying, I think they will achieve with this game. That doesn't make it a good game.
And that's all I want. When I say that's what I want,
make it a good game. Yeah.
Okay, agreed. But I totally agree with what you were saying earlier, where you were saying you don't think this game lives or dies on the single player.
No.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't think it does. I think it's all about the multiplayer. And I think a best case scenario for this game is in 2 years' time, we think of it in a similar way to Rainbow Six Siege or Overwatch.
Agreed.
Like, it's still there. It's probably not
living.
top 5 games being streamed on Twitch. It's probably not. But there's an esports scene around it. there is a hardcore fan base around it, and people are still playing it. Those servers are still populated. I think that's a best case scenario for Halo because it's a limited audience, right? It's not on mobile. Well, who knows with xCloud, right? But my point is, it is locked off in an ecosystem, right? Nobody's playing on PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
And so like you've locked off a group of gamers there, and so it could only go so far. But I think that's kind of a best case scenario for it, and I think you're right. I think look, they're lining everything up to make sure that I think it can be as successful as possible with the free-to-play multiplayer and stuff like that. I think it's going to be a huge deal. And I think going back to Luke's question, they have to double down on this. If it's disappointing at launch, people don't like it, there's no way in my mind that they abandon it after a year. Like, it has to be a Rainbow Six Siege. It has to be a,
They've proven that they won't just abandon it anyway. Look what happened with Master Chief Collection. Like, that come out horrendously.
Yeah.
Like, that game was in such bad shape. I bought that game day one, because, again, I wanted to try and become a Halo fan, doing an Xbox podcast. It didn't work, I'm sorry. But they definitely will not abandon it. And Xbox,
no.
I don't think I can remember once a game is out, can we name an Xbox game first party that they just abandoned? Like, even what's the game, the fighting game that we didn't like in the end?
Killer Instinct.
No. Oh, how dare you? Kresh, get him. Get him.
I feel hurt.
Bleeding Edge. Bleeding Edge is what I'm talking about. That wasn't just abandoned. That game didn't just get abandoned. It had no player base. So they stopped making new content. But it didn't just get abandoned out of the blue because it was a broken or not very good game. It didn't cater, it didn't cultivate an audience is the problem with that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think in Halo's defense also, Halo generally, even Halo 5 and Halo 4, tends to keep an audience for a certain amount of time. There's still people that play Master Chief Collection.
Yep.
And that's still been getting like new content recently.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I don't see them. I think it would be, even if the new Halo wasn't a super big success, I think it would be a dumb move on Microsoft to just abandon it and be like, yep, we're done. That is Halo. That is their franchise. That is the face of Xbox for a lot of people. When they think back on Halo, they think back to the old Xbox days when they were playing Halo 1 and Halo 2 and all those.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on. Next question we're going to go with is from Ruffstar, who says, with Microsoft pushing to have Game Pass everywhere, possible with xCloud, including browsers, would it be beneficial for those that haven't upgraded yet to get a PS5 instead of an Xbox Series X? If you can play via Cloud, then you can have the best of both worlds for exclusives anyway. Absolutely not. That is absolutely crazy talk, because xCloud isn't where it needs to be yet. It isn't a one-for-one experience. Until the time comes that it is a one-for-one experience between what you're getting on a Series X, or even S, and what you're getting on xCloud, it being the same, near enough the same experience. No, that's not even an argument to be had. Not at all. Because I think if you are somebody that wants to play Gears 5 or Gears Tactics or Forza or insert exclusive game here, you are doing yourself a disservice at this moment in time, as we record the 21st of the 5th, 2021, or the 5th of the 21st, we're mostly American audience. You would be doing yourself a disservice playing any of those titles solely on Game Pass. Solely on xCloud, or whatever they call it, Cloud Gaming Xbox. Mm-hmm. It is an app that is, I think it is a added experience. It is not an only experience yet.
Yeah.
I
totally agree with you.
No way. Yeah, go on.
I think it'll be really interesting to see where we are in 5 years' time if we ask this question again.
Yeah.
But right now, I totally agree with you. You're not going to have a fantastic experience with Halo on xCloud. Like, that's just not going to happen, right? You're not going to be able to have a fun online experience, I think, even if you have the best internet in the world.
I disagree with you. I think you can have a fun experience.
Sure.
I just don't think you can have the best experience. And as gamers, we're still early adopters in these new consoles, right? So even if you're considering buying it, you want the best experience. And xCloud, I showed it here on the show. It just right now, it takes too long to load into games. The screens are just too small. I know you can play on an iPad or on a PC through the web browser. Go on.
One thing I noticed when I've been messing around with xCloud as well over the last month or so, that loading in thing very much dependent on the game. Like loading into Banjo-Kazooie is it's not quick, but it's certainly quicker than what we showed on the show whenever it was 3 weeks ago.
It's also got better since then. I found my experience has got extremely better since then, because I think not everyone's smashing servers as much. That day, the day we showed it was day one, so it was only going to get better as time goes on, right? I just think this whole thing about buying a PlayStation over an Xbox, like if you are somebody who wants both experiences, the best thing to do is to buy a PC and a PlayStation. Yes. Not buy an Xbox, a PlayStation, and a xCloud. And a PC is way more expensive than an Xbox. Like if you want a good experience, that's the best way to go. But even still, I've got a PC. I'm sorting out new PC stuff, and that's where I'm starting to lead towards a lot more in my gaming experience, which, lucky for me, Xbox just so happen to be supporting Game Pass PC just as much as they are Game Pass console, but I'm able to have the best of both worlds. I think that's kind of where we're at. I think a lot of people always go with the fact of like, oh, it's too expensive to have everything. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. It's really expensive to have everything, but this is my only hobby, so I'm always going to have everything. Like, I'm not into smoking or drinking, so I will buy both consoles and a Switch that I pick up the Pokemon Snap and just don't even play, and I don't get those games for free. Just so for full transparency, like I still buy all of my Nintendo games. It's because I want to have the best experience, right? Like, I don't know. That's just a me thing, I guess.
Do you feel like this conversation changes slightly when xCloud becomes available on Xbox, like on the S, right? Would you recommend then an S over an X? Because you're saying
I recommend an S over an X now if you can't afford an X.
Sure.
That's all. It comes down to money, right? That's all it comes down to for me, is like, I don't think you should buy an S because I think you need that extra storage. You are going to end up needing more storage. Otherwise, you're going to get super frustrated with having to uninstall things or moving things. That experience, though a lot faster now, still isn't as quick as what you would want, because you're not running it off of SSDs. You're running.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you have xCloud built into it, then you can say, right, I want to try Halo. I play Halo for an hour, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I'm going to set it downloading, keep playing for another hour while it's downloading, and now in 2 hours I have the best experience, and I can delete stuff, and I can always play that stuff I've deleted on xCloud if I want to. Like, I think the conversation changes.
But Halo's
slightly.
100 gig. When Halo gets to that, well, I'm not saying it is at launch, but it will get to that size because of all the updates and stuff like that. And then you can't. Go on.
It's going to be a separate for multiplayer and stories, surely, right? Like, they're going to separate all that stuff out.
I would have thought so.
And the BR mode separate as well, maybe.
No, the BR mode wouldn't be separate. That'd be in with the multiplayer.
It would be in the multiplayer. Yeah.
I'm sure it would be. But
what do you think, Kresh?
I think like the big show, like Matt was saying, was when this comes to Xbox and when it's natively on PC and not through the browser. That is meant for mobile. That's meant for iOS. Once we see that, I think that'll be where you can really tell whether this is something that's viable. Because as of right now, it's still in beta. Like right now, absolutely not. I don't think that's the recommendation. I think anybody who recommends that to you is doing a disservice. Like Fix said, like if you do want the cheaper option, the Series S is there. I do think the Series S is a great option as well. It's more powerful than more powerful than you would assume, especially when you look at the size.
Yes.
Who was it? Somebody in Discord.
Yeah,
got
Mr.
a Series
Stylish.
S.
Mr. Stylish got one very recently. It was like, wow, this thing's tiny.
Yeah, and I kind of forgot because it's like sitting there off the side, and then I looked at it when I saw that. I was like, it is very, very tiny. It's not big at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think if xCloud is going to be a viable option to replace Xbox, I think we won't know that for a while.
Yeah. Fair enough. Let's move into what's been in our box. What's everyone been playing this week? Kresh, we'll start with you. What have you been playing?
I played the Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis beta.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Any good?
Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was... I kept stepping away from it, and I was... Maybe I play a little bit more, and I kept playing it, and then I went in, and every time I played, I was like, this feels so outdated already. It feels like an old game. I think
Yeah.
if you like Phantasy Star Online 2, that this will be probably fantastic for you. I think it'll be great.
Yeah.
But there's just something about it. I think it's still using like the same engine. It looks better, but it doesn't look that better. It doesn't look a current gen game. It still looks like you could argue a PS3 game.
MMO though, right?
Game. It's an MMO, yeah. So it is a different
MMOs
experience.
never really looked like that amazing.
Yeah,
Not that
that is
that's an
very
excuse. Like they could have been the one to really make it look amazing, but yeah, it's hard. Very hard to do.
That's very fair. It's usually more about the experience, which I enjoyed myself. I think because it's also free to play whenever the game comes out, I'll probably put some time into it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, to be honest.
Okay. Fair enough. Anything else?
I played Slay the Spire.
I heard great things about that.
A little bit of a cheat game for Game Pass. I went back to it. I played it before, but I decided to go back to it. I had some friends talking about it a while back, and I was like, I kind of want something to play. I don't want something that takes super long time.
Yeah.
I wanted to Slay the Spire. I really like that game. It kind of reminded me that it's probably one of the better roguelike experiences I've played. If you haven't played it and you like roguelike experiences and you like card games as well, I think that is a fantastic game to play.
Is that everything?
We're
embargoed. We're embargoed at the butt cheeks on lots of stuff. So yes. Yeah. You went back to what? Final Fantasy X
Remastered. We had talked about it. You asked if you should try it, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna jump back into it. I played about an hour or two, and I was like, wow, I forgot how much more cinematic this is compared to earlier Final Fantasy games.
Yeah. That's one of the games I've actually played. Like before my 15 Final Fantasy experience and obviously 7 remake, 10 was one of the very few games that I got. I don't really know how far I got, but far enough, because I remember being like, this game is like amazing, magical. What's the Blitzball? Blitzball to me was like the best thing on earth. I was like, I can play football in this dome? Like, this is amazing. Like, yeah. But is the remake good or?
It still feels dated. It feels like an old game. It has a really long opening, like a really long and slow opening with like the narrative feels chunky just because we're not used to getting narratives in that type of style anymore. We're used to the more current, up-to-date style. And so I think it's a good, like, if you're really nostalgic for it and you want to play it, it's on Game Pass. I think it's on Game Pass PC as well.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of places to play it.
Yeah. Matt P., what have you been playing, my dude?
I've been playing embargoed things and Resident Evil Village still. I'm in my 3rd run of the campaign now, and I love it.
So let's get to the point, shall we? Because you a big dum-dum. You a big dum-dum.
I'm a big dum-dum. Thank
So
you for everybody last week who told me I was a big dum-dum. I appreciate you.
I knew you was a big dum-dum. That would literally make no sense. No, not be fair, nothing. No. Nope.
Can I ask a question?
Feel free.
Please do.
How big of a dum-dum was Matt?
So
here's
last
the
week...
deal, right, Kresh?
Okay.
Let me tell my side of the story.
Please do.
When you finish Resident Evil 8, to be fair to the game, it says, hey, if you want to jump back in, then continue from your last save, from your end of game save, and you will carry over some items. That's what it says when you finish the game. I did not think that meant continue your last save to play New Game Plus.
It's not called New Game Plus, that's why.
Well, but it is New Game Plus.
I'm gonna be 100% honest, Matt. That sounds like you played the last save to play the New Game Plus.
No, but you know what the thing was, Kresh? He come on the podcast and was like, "Oh, I'm playing it on hard difficulty, yeah, and it's impossible. I can't believe I've got all my old guns." I'm like, wait, because I beat the game and didn't play. I was left with a traumatic experience in the end, where I was like, I'm not playing this again. Ugh, grumpy fixer. Boom, 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 boom. And I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Like, so you're telling me you spend all this time in the game upgrading guns, upgrading box space. There's a whole food system that you can't even do on the one playthrough. I just thought, no, there's no way this game doesn't have New Game Plus. So I went and checked it myself. That's the only game I've played this week, outside of embargo stuff. And I was just like, of course there's you just do it. It's the same as Resident Evil 4. You override that save and you continue it. That's your New Game Plus save.
You know what, Fixter? We're not the best readers in the world, okay?
That's
So when
you
you
know
give me a
what?
text box
Do
to
you
read at
know
the end of
what?
the game,
Facts.
you've done yourself in. You've done yourself in.
That's big facts. That's big facts.
If I had a little voice line from Chris Redfield going, "Hey Matt, well done on completing the game. If you want to play
your name
Plus,
as well.
do this," then I would have
Say,
got
"Hey,
it,
Matt."
right? I would have got it. You know,
Matt,
so
Matt, I've just finished punching boulders, but remember, if you would like to play New Game Plus, here it is.
yeah. So yeah,
But
I'm
you're
on
still
my
loving
third
it?
playthrough now, which is New Game Plus, and it's great.
You still,
Yeah,
you still enjoying it?
I'm loving it. Yeah, loving it. I do wish there was, because there are like challenges to complete during the story, right?
Yeah.
I wish there was an easy way to like jump back into that section of the story, so I can just do that challenge. I guess that's a bit cheap.
It is because the game can be
kind of
beaten
annoyed
so
me. I
quickly.
missed one.
The game
exactly.
can be beaten so fast. Now, this is what I love about Resident Evil as well. It's like the first playthrough is always your longest because as soon as
for
you
sure.
know what to do, you just nothing scares you anymore, really.
Yeah.
Because you don't play it in that same way. Like you're not
100%.
walking around slowly, you're not approaching corners like that. Now you're running around like it's Call of Duty and you're 360 no scoping fools.
100%. That also kind of an annoyance is that you have to play the opening like before you get your gun and stuff. Like I kind of wish it would just drop you into that like first encounter and then kind of set you off from there, because you have to like, you're injured and you're walking through the forest and ooh, it's spooky, but it's not spooky and I can't run at full speed and it's just annoying because I'm just here to be out of the challenges and like run. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of annoying, but is what it is.
It is what it
I'm
is.
still loving
indeed.
it. Still loving it.
Yeah, no, I jumped back in. Getting ready to start doing some speed runs in the game. I'm gonna do my knife only. Debating whether I want to go for the 1000G on it. I'll be honest. I've always said I'll go for 1000G on games that I love. And considering I didn't hate Resident Evil Village by no stretch of the imagination, but I wouldn't say I sat here and loved it the way I would have. But don't ever question my loyalty. I've got a £200 collector's edition behind me. But yeah, so I'm sort of on the edge of like, do I carry on? Do I not? What do I do? There's so much coming out, so much going on. I'm like, do I really have time for this? And for those wondering, the embargo stuff, you'll know about it relatively soon, because I'm sure there's loads of people going, oh, blah, 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 blah. We can't say anything about dates or anything like that, but soon. Let's jump into this week's dashboard and get through this as quickly as possible. First up, Microsoft closes extra cheap Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and EA Play Loophole. In case you guys didn't hear about this, Xbox have kind of stopped doing the old £1 excess now. They are finally sort of decided, well, this is how things go. This one was written by Robert Anderson over at IGN and says, Microsoft have officially closed a loophole that was allowing current Xbox Game Pass users to extend their membership at a discounted rate by subscribing to EA Play. Oh no, they're still doing the pan stuff then. I thought this was a different thing. The loophole involved buying EA Play 1-year membership, which would auto-convert to 4 months of Game Pass Ultimate if you were currently an Ultimate member. We highlighted this trick plenty of times, and it was objectively a great deal and 50% off a whole year of Game Pass if you stacked your purchase on EA Play passes. You can now still convert EA Play to Game Pass Ultimate, but now it is only equivalent to an extra 2 months rather than 4, effectively bringing EA Play to the conventional price of the same as its bracket of Ultimate at $14.99. So there you go. They haven't stopped the £1 thing at all. I thought they had. I'm about to sneeze.
No. So yeah, there's still a few workarounds where you can get cheaper Game Pass, right?
How?
They're like,
tell people. Let them know now.
I don't know if it's the most ethically sound thing in the world, but if you used a VPN to buy Xbox like Gold in Brazil,
we don't do that.
I'll be honest. You really shouldn't do that, because at some point it happens with tons of games where like you can buy stuff in cheaper in other countries. You end up screwing the prices in those countries because they end up upping the prices a lot of times. So even if you think about doing that, I would highly recommend not doing that for the Xbox fans in Brazil.
I agree. But my point is, there are plenty of loopholes to get other ways of getting cheap Game Pass, and eventually, yes, they're going to crack down, and you know, they just want people in at the end of the day. I'm sure they've known about this for a long time, right? And have actively not shut it down. And I don't know what changed their decision process on that. I'm sure maybe it has something to do with E3 being around the corner and them knowing maybe they'll get a spike of subscribers when they show off Halo and they show off X, Y, and Z. So, and so they thought, we'll close it now.
Considering I was wrong, because I thought this was about the pan thing, when do you think they stopped doing the pan entry stuff? When do you think they'll stop
Never.
doing that? Never.
When xCloud's fully out.
Yeah,
Interesting.
maybe when it's not in beta or whatever. Look, you see companies do this all the time. Like, sometimes they're not directly tied in, right? But you can get your first month free of Spotify in a multitude of different ways, whether it's your phone contract or this or that. Like, there are so many ways to get that, and so I think they'll keep doing that.
Can I
It's
just
just
say,
a good way of getting people in.
I absolutely hate the fact that my Game Pass Ultimate gives you Spotify for 3 months, right? But my Spotify account I can't use it on because I've already used a month before. I'm like, I'm not making a whole. I'm like, wait a minute. So I paid. Technically, I didn't pay for something because I got my Game Pass for free. So maybe I should shut the hell up. But I'm speaking for the people. So you paid for your Game Pass Ultimate to reap the benefits of this stuff, and you can't even reap the benefits unless you make a brand new account. It's annoying.
I agree. I remember when this first came out, I was so excited. I was like, I got 3 months of Spotify. This is going to be dope. And I went to connect my account. They're like, you've already had Spotify Premium. And it's like, no, thank you. I just like, I get it. It 100%
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't blame them for it. But part of me resents them a little bit,
Damn straight. Me too. And I definitely shouldn't. I definitely have no legs to stand on. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. Next up, Starfield will release. Could easily have been topic of the show. Starfield will release. Release date looks like it will be in 2022, and it will reportedly be a PC/Xbox exclusive. This one was written by Jeff. Well, it wasn't written by, sorry. This one was tweeted out by Jeff Grubb and said, Starfield is exclusive to Xbox and PC, period. This is me confirming that. So.
Little bit misleading. Jeff Grubb can't confirm that, right? Like, he's an industry insider and he's quite reliable in what he says. But he's like, yeah, like, it's still a rumor.
He can confirm what he's been told, which that's him.
But it is still a rumor.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I'm pretty sure this came up with him where he's like, this is him confirming it as a journalist and not for Xbox. He made that distinction as well.
100%.
What do we think? Like, we've all sat on this podcast and definitely discussed Bethesda at length. Me and Kresh covered the big news when it came out, and obviously the conversation back then would have been, will the games be exclusive? We then had the Xbox Bethesda sit down, and there was, legacies and all this stuff. I personally thought this was not going to be the case. I thought they were going to charge PlayStation fans $70 and let Xbox players just get it through Game Pass, and that's how they were going to cover their $7.5 billion. And I was wrong. I'm very happy to admit when I'm wrong, and I'm happy that I was wrong as well. By the way, like, this is a big win for Xbox fans, right?
Yeah, I think once we got Xbox's profits and how much money they made, it was very apparent that they were going to go exclusive with a lot of their games. I think at that point was because Xbox isn't like hurting to make some money on the side. Xbox isn't hurting to cover that bill. That bill's probably already been covered by at this point, and they're looking to invest in other things. I'm glad this is the case, to be honest. We talked about, like, does Microsoft need to play dirty and all these things. I think this is the case of, like, some people view this as playing dirty. I'm like, nope, for me, this makes absolute sense. I'm really glad this is the case. Very unconventional way to get the news, though.
Yeah, it is weird to get it through journalists of not that again, we get a load of stuff through Jason Schreier, of course, Jeff Grubb, again, he's doing his job at the end of the day. He's not that he has to confirm this, but he has, and that's his decision to do that. I'm a little bit disappointed because the pop would have been humongous at E3. Imagine the three of us live on my Xbox and me talking about it, and that moment of xCloud exclusive on Xbox, and then all three of us are like, now I think it takes away from that a little bit, but in the same breath, it's still a dope thing. It's a dope thing if the game's good, by the way. It's a dope thing, period. We just hope the game is good.
Yeah. I think it's important to point out as well, like, Jason Schreier was also tweeting out about this a little bit, and I think that was off the back of somebody saying that Starfield was basically done, has been since last September, and that they're just really polishing it so not to fall into the same trap as Fallout 76, and then Jason Schreier came out and said that's not true. The game's going to come out late 2022, and it's not done. So there's still stuff up in the air about this, right? I think, we're going to do an E3 predictions episode, so I don't want to get too far into it. I think we see a lot of gameplay of Starfield, hopefully, this year at E3. And off the back of that, it'll be interesting to see what people think of this game. Because we really don't know what it is, right? We're connecting dots, right? We know it's called Starfield, it's set in space, and it's made by Bethesda. And so people have this idea of what this game is going to be, but we could be totally wrong, right?
We could be. I highly doubt we are.
Yeah, me too. But
I think just on the seeing gameplay front, I think people forget, we've seen nothing but a title card for this game.
Yeah, exactly.
Officially, we haven't gotten anything. So I don't think we see gameplay, if I'm being honest.
Oh, no, we definitely see gameplay.
I think we see some sort of trailer for it. I don't think we see gameplay. We can discuss it later on.
But in the same breath, do you remember when we got gameplay for... what was it we got gameplay for? Assassin's Creed? Technically, at that Xbox Games conference thing,
yeah, where it wasn't really
gameplay, but it wasn't really what we was expecting gameplay. So I think we will get gameplay. Might not be what we're thinking in terms of here's the hub and here's this and here's that, but we're gonna get gameplay, guaranteed, in their eyes.
I think it'll just be interesting. I think the thing that I'm most interested in seeing is the tone of the game. Is it tongue-in-cheek humor like Fallout? Is it very serious, like a Mass Effect style thing? What are they going for with this? I don't know. I think it'll probably be more Fallout tone-wise. But it'll be interesting to see that aspect of it, because Fallout does have a very unique tone that people love, I think. And so I would like this to be something unique, not like a carbon copy of what Fallout is. And so that's what gets me excited.
Let's move on to some more Starfield news, which is Starfield rumor claims Tom Cruise is starring in Bethesda's new game. This one is written from Games Radar by, is it Hiron? Shout out. A new Starfield rumor claims none other than Hollywood powerhouse Tom Cruise is starring in the game. Earlier today, on May 18th, a pretty perplexing rumor started doing the rounds over on gaming leaks and Reddit subreddit rumors, buried within a compilation of previous Starfield rumors, was a claim that Hollywood star Tom Cruise was starring in the upcoming space firing game from Bethesda. In short, the claim comes from three self-professed Starfield insiders, each of which claims that Bethesda has recruited Tom Cruise for their new game. Additionally, the insiders point out to the 2018 tweet from Bethesda's Game Studios Twitter account just below, as hinted that the actor actually has signed on in the game. And the tweet read like this, which was Bethesda Game Studios Twitter: "Hey, at Tom Cruise, huge fans. Would love to loved your take on Oblivion and now Fallout. Want to get a head start on our next thing. #call me." Does this matter? Do we care? Is the truth.
I believe it.
Yeah, I believe it too.
I think this probably happened a long time after 2018. I think probably didn't have anything to do with this tweet. I think it probably had something to do with Cyberpunk and Keanu Reeves and that becoming a thing, right? That was a big deal for both Keanu Reeves and the game. People were talking about him in a different space. And so it's easy for Tom Cruise's management to see that and Tom Cruise to see that and go, oh, this is legit. Tom Cruise apparently tweeting about Oblivion and Fallout maybe, and so there's a connection there already, and then him saying, yeah, I'm in for this, and it's middle of a pandemic, although Tom Cruise has actually been quite busy during the pandemic, but for him to jump into a VO booth and do a thing, and yeah, that's what I would imagine this is, right? And
do you think it's just VO? Do you not think it will be a full... You don't think it will be like a full Tom Cruise is the star of this game?
Like I say, I think he's been one of the few actors who's been very busy in the pandemic, right? They've still been shooting a lot with Tom Cruise, and he's kind of been the what's the word I'm looking for? Not poster boy, but he's been the one pushing Hollywood forward of new ways to shoot in the pandemic, right? And been quite vocal about that. And there was that viral thing of him screaming at a load of crew, right? Because they weren't adhering to the new pandemic rules. And so, yeah, he's been very active during the pandemic and busy. So, yeah, it would surprise me if he's a really big character in this. I think him being a voice or something is probably more reasonable. I don't think we'll see him on an E3 stage like we did Keanu Reeves and stuff like that.
I hope not. I think
but I believe
that's the one thing I couldn't give two craps if Tom Cruise is in this game. Number one, number two, yeah, I really hope they don't double down on it like they did with Keanu Reeves. It worked with him, and I think it felt legit. Your breathtaking moment was legit. It was what's the word I'm looking for? Organic. Authentic. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. He seemed happy to be there. And unfortunately, we've watched plenty of E3s. I was at the EA Play with Jose Mourinho there, and it's just like, yep, you didn't want to be here, but you got paid a shed ton of money, so you're here. And I just don't want... We've seen, obviously, The Rock do it for Xbox before, and Pele, and all these other superstars, absolute megastars, come out, and they're just long and drawn out and boring and just not interesting. Like, we've only had one of those work in a game that unfortunately turned out to be not very good in all. Like, it was a broken mess. So yeah, I hope they just go, yeah, Tom Cruise in the game, and there's a VO line from him, and that's it. Like that's all it needs to be. I don't need more than that, personally. What about you, Kresh?
I agree with you. Unfortunately, I don't think that'll be the case.
I agree.
I don't think you go out of your way to get Tom Cruise and you're like, yeah, you'll play the side character that we see for one quest. The only way that happens is if they don't advertise it at all and it's sort of an Easter egg.
Yep.
I think that's the only way that happens. If he's any way sort of like, they want to say Tom Cruise is in our game, I think he's going to play a major role, whether it be sort of like the end game villain or character or whatever it is. And you don't really spend too much time with them, so he doesn't have to dedicate a lot of VO, but he is there and he's a presence.
Spacey.
That could be the case.
When they had Spacey and Spacey was in COD, which obviously we know Spacey now is a scumbag. But yeah, like, just have to add that in. Hey, the truth's the truth.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think it's like he done his work and then got out of there, right? You didn't see him on stage, did we? I don't think so. He was just in the game.
No.
Right?
It was just in the game,
I agree with you though, Kresh, more than Matt, unfortunately, which is like, you don't spend Tom Cruise money to have him just be there for a voice line, right? Like this, unless it's just a cameo, which again, I don't think this gets picked up if it's just a cameo.
Well, I think 100% it gets picked up. Like, look, Bethesda aren't the ones coming out here and saying Tom Cruise is in our game. This is a rumor that websites are reporting on because SEO. Tom Cruise plus Xbox, Tom Cruise plus Bethesda in a headline works, right? And Starfield, whatever. And so, yeah, I agree with you. I think if it's small, Bethesda don't push this, and it's a nice little Easter egg. I do wonder how, like, Bethesda games are tongue-in-cheek, right? We're just talking about tone. I think you have to kind of make this a bit ridiculous if he's in it. And therefore, I don't know if they do it, right? Like, I think either Tom Cruise plays a robot with the personality of Tom Cruise. Like, I think you play it really tongue-in-cheek if you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah.
And so, and I don't know if Tom Cruise would be up for that. I don't know if Tom Cruise is the sort of person to do that, or if he wants it to be more serious, right? Like,
do we know anything about Tom Cruise? Like, do we actually know anything about Tom Cruise? I know he's a very good actor and does his own stunts, if I'm not mistaken. That's all I know about Tom Cruise.
Breaks his own leg and flies his own helicopters and stuff, yeah.
Like, that's all I know about
Do you want a little Tom Cruise fun fact?
Sure, why the heck not?
There is a bakery supposedly in London that basically exclusively makes cakes for Tom Cruise, and he sends like an insane amount of Christmas cakes out to people and outlets and journalists that he's friends with. And what's the name of the brand? They're under the company that I work for, and they get a cake every year from Tom Cruise. Cinema Blend, that's it. They're on the Tom Cruise Christmas cake list. There's a little Tom Cruise fun fact for you.
What?
You were saying you don't know nothing about Tom Cruise.
I'm gonna be honest. I think we have to start reporting more on Tom Cruise news, even if it's not Xbox related.
I'll give you a fun Tom Cruise fact every week.
My Tom Cruise and me. Sounds good.
Hey, if he's going to be in Bethesda games from now on, why not?
Moving on.
We'll get him on the show.
The Ascent launch date is July 29th, and a happy fact about that is it will be in Game Pass as well. This is absolutely brilliant news. Obviously, it's something that we care about. It's something that it's a game that we care about. At least I know I do. I'm pretty sure the other guys are definitely looking forward to playing it, and it always helps when it launches in Game Pass, right?
Yes. I absolutely agree. I think this was one of the things where this sort of came out of nowhere that it's coming with Game Pass. It was just sort of there one day, which hopefully we get more of these as well.
Well, this is one of those games that I think, like, again, this is a smaller title, right? So we didn't need it. It doesn't need to be on a stage or things like that. Like, it's like people will now play this. A lot of people will probably, if they own both consoles, will probably play it on Game Pass more than they would have done. I don't know if is it exclusive actually? I don't know if it is coming to.
Yeah, I think it's only coming to
I think
Xbox.
it's only
I think the
Xbox and
announcement
PC.
said
Xbox, PC,
Yeah.
Steam, Windows Store probably, like whatever. Yeah. Cool. Next one we got a question about, which is from a wild Jarmy enters and says, do you see Microsoft swooping in and buying a few new studios with this news? This news being Warner Brothers Games Fate Unknown after the Discovery and Warner Brother Media merger. So I was following this one, but I couldn't quite follow it properly because I didn't quite understand the ins and outs of it. From my understanding, from a top level, and you guys can sort of jump in and tell me if I'm wrong or right, is they've been bought, WB have been bought out by Discovery, or splitting up some of their parts with Discovery, and the games part of that is some of the games are going with them, some of them are staying. It's all over the place, right?
Yeah, so AT&T sold off WB Media, which is everything, which is HBO Max, it's the network, it's I think DC would end up being included in that as well. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure that gets included in that as well. Was being bought out by Discovery. I think it's being sold as a merger with Discovery. I think that's the official wording. I don't know what that really means.
Let me hit you. This is the tweet that I'm reading here from Julia Alexander, who says, correcting part of this tweet, which must have been something else. One, the sale includes some of WB W Bros, Jesus. Warner Bros. Interactive / Warner Bros. Games, but not all. Second, the sale does not include DC Comics Discovery, though the new venture
sale does
now
include.
Does include, sorry. DC
sale
Comics,
does include.
yeah, Discovery through the new venture now effectively co-owns DC Comics with WB, and for those who do care about this sort of thing, Rooster Teeth is part of the sale, yes. So, people are now, for the things that actually matter to us, right? People are now thinking that Xbox are going to go and buy up some more studios, though that means they still wouldn't get the IPs of these games that these studios work on, right? So it's still back to the same argument that we've been having for the longest time, which is it's all well and good going to buy WB when the rumor was out there, which that means there definitely was discussion. Yeah. I guarantee Xbox 1000% had the discussion about buying them. Nah. I believe that rumor now. But what that does leave was they knew they weren't getting the IP, and the IP is what WB are known for, right? It's what do they do? Batman, Lego, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. Those are the big ones.
They have a bunch of smaller ones. I'm pretty sure Aliens under there, Rambo, a bunch of stuff like that falls under WB if I'm not mistaken as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think the question, I suppose, that was posed to us by Yarm is, do you think Xbox go and pick up any of these studios and buy them just to add to the portfolio?
I don't think so. I think any of like the big studios, the important studios, probably are going to go through the Discovery merger, or there would be a reason why AT&T would keep them. Like, we'll keep this as an in-house game studio or something along those lines. I don't see anything Microsoft would really want. And then even if like Rocksteady was available, again, we get back to the point, like you mentioned, we talked about it, was, do they want Rocksteady without Batman, right?
Imagine Rocksteady and then they go and partner with Marvel on something, though. Xbox buy Rocksteady, and then Xbox go to Marvel and say, hey, we got the guys that made Batman. What can we get from you guys? And then we get an exclusive, the way Sony's got Spider-Man, Xbox get an exclusive, I don't know. Daredevil's too small. Moon Knight's too small. I'm thinking...
I don't think there's any. Black Widow they could possibly do.
Black Panther?
A Hawkeye.
I wonder how tied in they all are to
It has to be an A-list. It has to... Captain America game. It has to be an A-list. It can't be a B-list. Moon Knight.
Would you say Hawkeye?
Get the hell out of here. Moon Knight. Hawkeye's B-list.
First of all...
Hawkeye's B-list. Don't chat to me, all right?
Hawkeye... Moon Knight has his own Disney Plus TV show coming out.
B-list.
Own Disney Plus TV show.
Moon Knight is like D-list.
I just
even
want
if
to
he
point
does
this
have his
out.
own Disney Plus show.
A majority of these Avengers that everybody considers A-list, they used to be B-list characters.
But they're now A-list. A-list, all right?
Microsoft is trendsetters. They're out here trying to turn Moon Knight to the next best thing.
You know what? Squirrel Girl game from Rocksteady coming soon. Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, I don't think it happened.
I will never be surprised to read a headline, Microsoft has bought X anymore. So
True.
if they buy more studios, I believe it. Like, yeah.
No, I get that. I think it's just more the optics of all this, right? The optics just don't seem right. They don't seem right for me.
No, I agree.
But yeah. Next up, GTA 6 unlikely this year. Take-Two plans to release 21 games between now and March. It's a lot of damn games. Let me tell you.
A lot
of damn games. Was any of us expecting GTA anytime soon? Like,
No.
Like they just announced GTA 5 is getting pushed to next gen, which is obviously big for people that care about that, I guess. I've actually just started playing it on PC, so interesting. Apparently not meant to play it with a keyboard and mouse. Can I just say one thing before we move on? I've never understood this.
Yeah.
PC games that don't play well on keyboard and mouse. You gotta fix that. That doesn't make sense.
GTA is all lock on though, isn't it? So like that with the keyboard and mouse from the off is just
But you've got to fix that sort of thing. Like you do not buy £1,000 PC to then plug in an Xbox controller. Some people do, and that's okay. That's okay. But I should have the option to play both. I'm playing GTA. Everyone's taking the mickey out of me, Kresh. I was playing GTA in Discord the other day, just relaxing, driving, and then Ant, shout out to Ant, said to me, "Are you playing on keyboard and mouse?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "No, you don't play this game on keyboard and mouse." I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean you don't play on keyboard and mouse?" That makes no sense.
What in your experience is bad about it?
No. It wasn't for me. It wasn't bad.
Oh, it's just
it was the fact that my friends were taking the mickey out of me for doing it.
That's just them taking the mickey out.
I'm not having it, mate. No one takes the mickey out of me.
Honestly, I think when somebody buys GTA on PC, they're buying it to mod it for the most part. Like, when it first came out, people were buying it to
stuff
play
like that.
legitimately.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not surprised by GTA 6 not coming this year, right? When do you think GTA 6 will come? If I had to ask you, like, just pick a date out of the sky and do it a year, not a date. A year out of the sky. Where would your head go for the right time to release a new GTA? Remember, we didn't get a new GTA last gen. We got content, we got brand new content for online stuff, but we never got single player content. We're still playing a 360 game for all intents and purposes. Like, that is what we're playing here. When do you think we get a new GTA?
2024, the earliest.
I was gonna say 2025.
I was going to say that
at first. Keep this back going.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
We're never going to remember.
Yeah.
It's a long way out.
Yeah.
2023. I wouldn't be surprised if they come out of nowhere in 2023. Because they always do that thing where they like do they do a website and it's like a countdown. And then I remember being in school and like checking it every single day, and then they would drop a screenshot per day and stuff like. I could see them totally doing something like that in 2023, and the game doesn't come out till 2024.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
I think GTA Online still does really well, and like you said, they don't do single player DLC. They kind of do. They just throw it in the multiplayer. Because there is like storylines and characters you can follow in the multiplayer. I think that's where they sort of
with the characters that I fell in love with. I put GTA 5 is up there as one of my best 5 games of all time. Right? Yeah. I didn't get a Trevor expansion, and Trevor went on to explode as an actor, the person who played him, right? Stephen Hawking. Like, we just didn't get like that sort of DLC that I would have liked.
If you're looking at like GTA 4, I don't think we would have gotten a DLC with Trevor. There would have been some side character in the game.
We got Ballergay Tony and the Lost and Damned, which is the motorbike stuff, right?
Yeah.
Spoilers for GTA 5, but they do give you the option at the end of that game to kill them all.
Yeah, but
like,
that's
all
not
the main
canon.
characters can die or not.
It's not canon.
Huh?
It's not canon in my
head.
head.
Is it not? What is considered canon? In your head. All right, great.
Well, no, okay, look. There's every single time a game does this now, it's very obvious. In Resident Evil 7, you had that decision. One was very obviously not canon. Usually what I do in those type of situations... What are you putting faces for? Matt P, what are you putting faces?
It doesn't matter. Isn't the outcome the same, regardless of what you decide to do?
No.
Can we just spoil Resident Evil 7 and talk about this properly?
No.
Somebody was replaying it, so
No, we cannot.
Okay,
Don't worry.
fine.
Hey, I'm not that guy on a podcast. I refuse to just do spoilers like that because there's always I don't care if it's the oldest thing on earth. There is always somebody who is either not played it, wanting to play it, thinking about playing it. I'm not a spoilery guy like that. I try not to be that guy. Or I do the thing where I say spoilers are coming, and then I'll go like 5, 4. I'm like proper boring because it happens to me all the time. I hate it. When I kind of funny do it all the time, and I hate them for it. Like the other day, I did it with Uncharted 4, and I was just like, yes, it's my fault. I know it's my fault. I bought my PS4 with Uncharted 4 and didn't finish it. It's my fault that the ending got spoiled. I know, but I managed to avoid it. We had this with Final Fantasy OG. Documentaries should not be putting spoilers just out of nowhere. I'm going off on a tangent. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I'm bringing myself back in. Let's carry on with the news. I'm sorry. No spoilers on my watch. EA is building a new third-person open-world studio. This one was written by Windows Central, our friends over at Windows Central. Shout out to them. This one was from Zachary Body, who says, the stuff you need to know here. Electronic Arts is building a brand new game studio based out of Seattle to head at the now nameless studio. EA has brought on ex-Monolith Productions Vice President Kevin Stevens. Kevin Stevens is most known for heading development of Middle-earth, Shadow of War, and Shadow of War. The studio will be built to develop new open-world action-adventure games with a little details shared today. Big news. EA going back to single player. It is big news.
Very big. Opening a whole new studio for that means that they really plan on investing in it as well.
You'd hope.
I think they got a good person to do it. As far as like, I think his games are well received. I prefer the first Shadow of War game, but like they're both pretty good. I'm really interested to see what they work on, if it's going to be an original IP, if they're going to go into a license with anybody. I don't know if anybody wants to do licenses with EA too much anymore. I'd assume that they will, just because EA is like a household name in gaming. It's like they come to you, they want to do a deal with you. It's something you'll probably think about.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think the problem with the second Shadow of the Shadow of Mordor was the second one. Was that right?
Shadow of War was the second. Mordor was the first one. Yeah.
I think that was EA getting involved with that whole microtransaction nonsense at the ending and all that stuff. That's where that game fell apart for me. That the rest of the game was a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it. It was just the ending where I was like, why has it turned into this? And why do I have to grind anything for this ending? Like, makes no sense. But yeah, no, I think this is big. Obviously, I always want to see the big companies, so EA, Ubisoft, etc., be working in the open world third-person space because they're my favorite genre of games. So happy about this one, definitely, very happy. Crush.
Me too. Nothing to add.
Overwatch 2. There was a lot of news about Overwatch 2, my dude, and I know you're a big Overwatch fan. Matt, do you like Overwatch?
Yes.
I played it when it first came out and played it a fair bit. But I haven't touched it in many a year.
Yeah, no, me too.
Overwatch 2 is exciting.
I play when Kresh forces me to play, and that's about it.
We've played like I think once or twice. That's about it.
There you go. That's the only times I've played.
Yeah.
But Overwatch 2, new PvP changes, and new map, and everything announced from the live stream. Did you watch the live stream, Kresh?
I watched a good portion of it. I watched like the first half or something like that. Then
So what were your most exciting things?
They're dropping it down from, normally it's a 6v6 mode, right? They're dropping it down to a 5v5 mode. Okay. And with that come a whole bunch of like meta and balance changes. They're trying to give tanks more agency and sort of a ripple effect to the whole game, which explains why this game's taking out so long to come out. Because it's not, it's a new game, but it's not a fully new game. Because if you have Overwatch 1, that multiplayer will work when Overwatch 2 comes out, right? It's still a continued experience in that regard. The new thing about Overwatch 2 is really the PvE experience, which they haven't talked more since they first announced it. So I originally thought this game would come out in 2019, I think, is when it announced, and it did not. we're in 2021 now, and it's looking like it'll probably be like a 2022 release.
Yeah.
But it makes sense with switching it from a 6v6 mode to a 5v5 mode, and all the ripple effects and challenges you have to do, right? You have to look at everybody's crowd control they were talking about. How do you make a tank who doesn't have a shield be as relevant as a tank who does have a shield, right? There's a lot of moving pieces that they have to fix and work on, and it makes sense now. I think the 5v5 is honestly, so many people are torn about it, and there's been a big debate and argument. Some people say it's the worst thing ever and it's killing Overwatch, and some people say it's akin to adding the 3-point line in like basketball or something like that. It changes the game for a very positive way.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to it. I think having one tank fixes a lot of the issues that Overwatch previously had that people started stepping away from, because there were certain metas in Overwatch that revolved around like 2 tanks. I think it'll make also watching it interesting, because with 6 people, it gets kind of hectic, especially when there's 2 tanks. Now it's clear like there'll be an opening, and hopefully that means that players can also play it better, but it's also more enjoyable viewing experience in terms of the esports aspect of it as well.
It says here, again, you're the Overwatch guy, I'm not. It says Assault will be removed from competitive play. So what does that mean?
So Assault is a specific game mode where there's like, do you remember the one where there's 3 points that you have to capture as a person?
Yeah.
You capture 1 point, and then you have to move to the next point.
Yeah.
Spawn changes. It's not always 3, it's usually 2 actually. So they're getting rid of that completely, and they introduced a new game mode, which they revealed, I think, back in 2019, where you basically have a payload and you move it to one side and you start capturing it, and then the other team's goal is to move it the other way.
Yeah. I like that one.
So that's not the one that's in Overwatch 1 currently.
Oh,
you haven't played this one.
That's the train, right?
Yeah.
What's the one in the Overwatch 1 right now where like you both start on other sides of the map, and then you have to push the thing through, and the other team's trying to stop you, right? That's
yeah. So
that's not what this is then.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So there's a robot in the middle of it, and there's 2 platforms that need to get pushed. So whoever has more people on it, I think, is the way it works.
Oh yeah,
it pushes towards that side.
Blizzard's working on more push maps than just Tornado.
Yeah. So they have 2 push maps right now that they showed off, I think. And what it essentially is, you want to move it. Both sides have to move the goalpost towards the objective, and you can sort of ping pong it, and it'll move spawns depending on where it is. It's a really interesting mode, which it looked fun. It looked like it was a way shorter mode, which the problem with some of the Overwatch maps is that the maps just take way too long sometimes, the matches. Yeah, so this looks like it'll speed it up a bit.
Fair enough.
It's always kind of mind-blowing to me how much math are involved in these games, right? Like one little tweak that a lot of us would think nothing of, right? Moving it from 5 to 5 to 6 to 6 or vice versa just impacts the game so massively, right? I always think of like Smash Brothers as well, like these little tweaks, all the characters they add, and that game is still relatively balanced, is just mind-blowing to me. And so, yeah, the love and care the Overwatch team put into their game is absolutely clear. And so whatever changes they make, are well thought through and best for the game at the end of the day. And so, and if they're not, they'll change them back, right? So,
yeah.
So
nothing's set in stone right now.
Yeah. Matt, that you say that, right? Making video games, you need to be a smart person, right? Like, I think generally to make a video game, you need to be a smart person. And I think that's why, when us dyslexic people and other people that struggle to read and the notes in video games is why that just gets glossed over and missed, because people that make video games are very smart people. So they have very good comprehension skills. Their reading ability is obviously going to be very good. Things like that, right? I was thinking about it the other day where I was like, of course they're going to put in these giant, obviously I've been playing a ton of Resident Evil. So I'm like, whose idea was it to put this wall of text in this? But if you are someone who makes a video game, you're super smart, and you can read, and you can do all this stuff, right? You're not dyslexic or have any. You may be dyslexic, because dyslexic people are very creative people. Let's not get it twisted. But the dyslexic person is not the person writing all the notes. Let me tell you.
Sure. And I think
it's very interesting that you say that about like numbers and things like that. Is all.
I think people often don't think of when you're making something like a video game, when you're making a large scale project, so much of it is just problem solving. It's, we've added this and now we need to fix this problem. And so it's fixing problems all the way until you have an end product.
Yeah.
And often, yeah, you're right. Like those things get missed. You know, it's the same when I'm making a video, right? The captions get missed sometimes. Like I miss subtitling stuff sometimes. And it's because there are so many problems to solve along the way. You're trying to hit a deadline. When you're there, you're there. Like it's got to go.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I understand why these things get overlooked. And it's nice to see the industry coming together, right? Like, what was it called? Awareness Day was just the other day. Accessibility Awareness Day.
Oh, yeah.
It was just the other day. And so there's massive conversation around this sort of stuff now. And it's great to see. It's only going to get better. But yeah, I totally understand why these things get missed because it's like, man, we got to hit this deadline. We got to get Resident Evil out. We would love to do all these things. I'm sure there are those conversations happening, but they just can't do it.
Yeah.
So I understand.
Let's get through these last few bits before. Go on, Crash. Go before I.
I was just gonna say, I think in terms of like just a wall of text, a lot of times for a developer, it isn't even necessarily they see it as a wall of text because they're not even looking at the document. They're just like, here's this piece of information that you can get here.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's quickly get through these last pieces. Obviously, Summer Game Fest is back again with Jeff Keighley. He's announced the first lineup, and the date will be Thursday, June 10th. The live show will kick off. I think Jeff has also gone on record saying it's going to be about 2 hours long, which is good. The partners that we can see so far are 2K, Activision, Amazon Games, Annapurna, Bandai Namco, Blizzard, Capcom. A lot of your regulars. You've got EA here, Epic Games, Koch Media, PlayStation, Xbox, WB, Ubisoft, Sega. Obviously, there's a lot more, but Steam's on here, Square Enix as well. Were you all looking forward to E3? I'm getting excited now, to be honest with you. It's
Really
one of those ones
now.
where I am getting very, very excited. Oh, there you go. Kresh has added it in here for me, the information of the big stuff you need to know. So it's one big it's one big show similar to the Game Awards or Gamescom. There's going to be about 20 to 30 games shown. A lot of live service games are participating. This is all from Nibble, and the last one here is, quote, I think there are going to be some big announcements and some long-awaited things, end quote, about all this at Summer Games Festival. So, exciting times. It's good to have Jeff sort of take lead and go, okay, we've got E3, and the big boys are going to do their conferences. Perfect. Okay, everyone who's not on the big boy show, come over here. Hey, you, Annapurna, we see you over here. Come on. All right, what you got to show? And then we can put that all together into one big showcase as well. And then I haven't got to spread my life across 10,000 different things, which is, interesting. But I'm glad this is happening.
I also think it's a much better shift from what was happening last year with whatever Jeff Keighley was doing, where it was very like spread out. Here's this event, and he also, it's an interview, and I think he has a quote in the interview where he's like, "Don't over expect on this. Sort of keep expectations down," because I think that's one thing that people always have to get reminded of.
Yep.
They're always expecting like, oh, we're going to see every AAA game here. We'll see Elder Scrolls at Summer's Game Fest. We'll see it at the Xbox conference. We might even see it at the Nintendo conference. Who knows, you know?
No, yeah, you're right. I think expectations are super key. Doesn't mean my announcements or my predictions are going to be like that, but that's what I do.
I'm in the same boat. When you said, are you excited now for E3? Probably too excited, if anything. Like, I'm just like... Yeah, my expectations are all over the place, but and I keep trying to rein myself in. I just can't. One of the big things you missed out here was including a performance by Weezer. So...
I couldn't give two craps about Weezer. That's why I missed that out. But one thing I do care about, moving on, Evil Within IP has been registered for continued use. Yes! Woo. I love Evil Within, love the series, and that was one of the big games when Xbox bought Bethesda. That was one of the games I was like, please tell me this means we're going to get another Evil Within. And it looks like we might do, possibly, kind of. I mean, registering the continued use for an IP doesn't mean anything. In turn, it's just them keeping the IP. But fingers crossed, I think this is good news. I generally do. I think after Tango finished Ghostwire Tokyo, the people that are interested in doing another Evil Within are going to get that opportunity, which is going to be dope to have a new Evil Within. That would be amazing. Gamepass Games this month. SnowRunner, Peggle 2, Plants vs. Zombies, Battle for Neighborville, Secret Neighbor, The Catch, Carp, and some fishing game, everyone. The Wild at Heart, Knockout City, which should have been in there day one. Don't know why that wasn't in there day one. Meat Eater, Meat Eater, technically kind of the same thing. Conan Exiles, Fusion Frenzy, big boy game. Joyride Turbo, Mecha Warrior 5, Slime Rancher, and Solo Star, Crown of the Magic Star. And Spellforce all coming to Game Pass, and the ones leaving is Broforce, Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5. Oh no! Kingdom Hearts 2.8 Final Chapter, Surviving Mars, Void Bastards are all leaving Game Pass on the 31st. This is one of those ones that I'm upset about because it's my own
Kingdom
stupid
Hearts?
fault.
Me too.
You're muted, Kresh, but because it's my own stupid fault of I had the opportunity to play these games. I should have took that opportunity.
Me too.
And I didn't. Damn. With moment of silence for that.
I want a Final Fantasy VII-esque remake for Kingdom Hearts, because I do feel like people who love that game. I feel like if I went back, it would be so dated for me and rough.
Oh, you want a remake of... Sorry.
Yeah.
I get what you're... Sorry. I didn't comprehend what you were saying there. That will happen at some point. At some point in time, it will happen. Not yet. No, not anytime soon. Yeah. But it will happen at some point. Square Enix are going to need money at some point. Like
that also print money. That would print money whenever they do it.
Exactly.
True.
Games with Gold this month are very bad, but Armello, May 1st to May 31st, Dungeons 3, May 16th to June 15th, Xbox 360 games Tropica 4, May 16th to May 31st, and obviously a big shout out to the Potato Squad. What up, Potato Squad? How you all doing? Welcome all for being here. I appreciate each one of you. This is the post show within a show, and we appreciate you being here. Yeah, this is special for you. And if you don't know what the Potato Show is, you go back to last week and the week before. We don't explain Potato Squad, all right? We don't explain. Let's plug, and get ourselves out of here.
Rule number one of Potato Squad is don't talk about Potato Squad.
Facts. Yeah, even though you hashtagged it. You thought I weren't going to notice.
You did.
You thought I weren't going to notice.
If you were in the Discord as well, you would have seen the t-shirt design that I made.
I did see it.
People are excited about it. Just saying.
That was a terrible design.
Fix wasn't talking about Potato Squad. Fix was doing the right thing. He saw it and he kept silent about it.
That's true.
Kresh, you know why? Because real G's move loose silence like when
Wait, real G's lose silence?
Damn it! I tried. I could never say it properly, but I know what I'm goddamn meaning. If you know, you know. That's all that matters. Just plug, get stuff out of here. Kresh, what you got to plug this week?
I'm gonna plug the My Xbox and Me TikTok page that Matt's been absolutely killing it on. Like, absolutely killing the TikTok game.
Congratulations.
I love you. I appreciate you for that.
Matt, what you got to plug this week?
I want to give a shout out to Stead because they tweeted at me on Twitter and said, "Hey Matt, there's Xbox Series X stock in Currys right now." And
did you get one?
I appreciate the shout out. No, I didn't. It's a bad timing for me. Payday's just around the corner. Like we need to put the money aside. I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared.
You ain't got a credit card?
Sure, but like I spent it all on Bitcoin.
If you did that, we got problems.
No, I didn't.
We got problems because let me tell you, they just had a dip.
I think,
and now you're in trouble.
Yeah, I think I'll probably end up getting one before the end of the year, but probably not during the summer.
Fair enough.
But yes, I appreciate the shout outs. I appreciate everybody in the Discord trying to help me out. I really do appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You can find me everywhere at MC Fixer. The big thing to push this week, I guess, would be more MC Fixer. YouTube.com/more MC Fixer. It's my gameplay channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers over on that channel. Obviously, subscribe to this channel and every channel that we have out there. But yeah, more MC Fixer. YouTube.com/more MC Fixer. We got a couple of shorts on there, but me and Shotgun McPay, my editor, for that. We're working really hard to try and get that channel monetized. So we need 1,000 subscribers over there. So if you're someone who listens to my Xbox and Me and enjoys me and my content, please do consider going to hit the sub button over there. We've got more work to do, but until next time, we will love you, leave you, and see you all later. Goodbyes.
Goodbye.
Love you. Bye.